Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hard Nine Pod. As always, we are super pumped to have you join us. Today is January the 25th,
Fifth.
2023. I am joined across the way by Caleb Noble. You can find him at Twitter at Caleb Noble08. You can find me, Mike Noble08. Obviously, you can find our pod, the Hard Nine Pod, or the Hard Nine. It's one of those. If you type that in, you're either going to get our pod or something you really don't want to pop up on your screen. So either way, who knows? I don't know what to tell you there. But with all of that being said, big time shout out as the first person from the MV3 gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. Super, super pumped for Scott Rolen.
Me too. His first year on the ballot, only getting 10% of the vote, to come all the way back to now getting voted in his sixth year, I believe it was, on the ballot. That's pretty remarkable. It's one of the higher climbers ever. So great for him. As you mentioned MV3, that reminds me. Well, I mean, I want to keep this about Scott Rolen, but could Jeff Edmonds have gotten a better chance of getting in if he just would have stayed on for another year? You never know. Things like that kind of suck, but it kind of shows you, how many people do you think they overlook? Like Scott
Right.
Rolen, that the first year they fall off, and then as we look later, like it took Jim Cott how many years to get in? But
I
I'm
mean, 40?
super pumped for Scott Rolen, eighth all
Yeah.
time in WAR for third basemen that are in the Hall of Fame. I mean, if you don't think he's deserving, one, you probably didn't watch him. I got to watch the latter half of his career, but two, you also just probably, I don't know, don't understand how underrepresented third basemen are in the Hall of Fame.
Agreed 100%. That run when he was here, when he got traded, I mean, I go back to remember him in Philadelphia, Rookie of the Year, multiple Gold Glove winners. I mean, massive numbers. And when he got traded to the Cardinals for Placido Polanco, I believe, and there's somebody else involved in that trade. That was one of the. I mean, obviously, shout out back to the Walt Jocketty days. When we brought Rolen over, it was one of those like, oh my god, like Scott Rolen is a Cardinal. I think he grew up in Indiana. He's an Indiana kid, and I just remember him always talking about coming over to Cardinal games with his family and his brothers and his dad, and he grew up a Cardinal fan. So when he was here, when you had that team with him and you had Renteria and you had Edmonds and you had Pujols, then in there you had times you had Reggie Sanders, you had Juan Encarnacion. I mean, Fernando Vina, you had Yachty and Matheny behind the plate. I mean, we talk about our defense now. That team was just as defensively sound. I mean, there's an argument to be said they were maybe even better because of the outfield. Yeah. It was so much fun when we were pulling and then we were bringing in Larry Walker a little bit in that time. It was the best, but it seems like out of all of those, the Scott Rolen deal was the deal.
Yeah,
and just to get a guy like that who at the time had filled in, he'd taken over essentially for Mike Schmidt. Schmidt had been gone for a little bit, but he was like the heir to Mike Schmidt in Philadelphia, and then for Philly to trade him to the Cardinals was monumental.
How crazy is it that the best players of the last, let's say, 20 years for the Cardinals, if you were to go through them, you have got Yachty and Albert. Well, other than him, it's Matt Holliday, Scott Rolen, Jim Edmonds, Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright, all five guys that they traded for. So, I mean, maybe that's why we don't send free agents. But, yeah, I mean, I wasn't alive, I don't believe, when that trade happened, was I? What year was that?
That
was
2000? 2001, maybe?
Yeah.
Let me
so
just
I
make
wasn't
sure on that.
I'll look to see. First year he played with the Cardinals
2002.
was 2002. So it was the year I was born.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to the excitement of acquiring him. But I mean, you got a Hall of Fame player in the middle of his career in his prime.
27. He was 27 when he came
what
over,
I don't understand?
Prime Scott Rolen.
I mean, let's go through some stats real quick so we can talk, kind of say how special
one thing that
Scott
I kind of
Rolen
wanted
was.
to add to you before, because I do want to go through that. One thing I wanted to add to what you had said is as far as where he ranks just all time on that third base list. I think when you start to add, like right now, he's 10th all time in WAR. Yeah, 10th all time in WAR. And the average
among third basemen.
Right. Among third basemen. Yes. Thank you. The average in the Hall of Famers. So all the Hall of Famers, there's 15 of them before Scott. Their WAR was 68. His was 70. I mean, if you look now, the next closest is Edgar Martinez. He's in, right? You go below that. The one that got me was Greg Nettles, like at 68.3. That was a wild one. That really surprised me.
What Greg Nettles, every time I think of him, I think about how stupidly his name is spelled.
I know.
It's Craig with a G.
with a G. I
I
know.
love it. I
That's
kind of
why I
love
looked at
it.
it and I was like, that does not sound right.
Yeah.
That's Craig Nettles. That's all I knew. But the only guy on the list right now is at number 4, and that's Adrian Beltre, who, by the way, is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Next year, I'm
So,
so excited
I
for
mean,
that. But
yeah, I did. You see one before we get to the numbers? Did you see the video of him telling his mom?
yes, and his dad coming
If
over in the walker and crying.
if you guys haven't seen it,
Cardinals posted it.
Cardinals posted it. Go check it out. I think the Hall of Fame also posted it. If you follow
I
them,
think I think
um,
all 4 of the teams he played for posted it.
yeah. So well deserved. But yeah, go ahead. I didn't want to step on that. I just thought when for like proper perspective where he ranks in the all time. This isn't like in our generation or what. This is all time. I mean, that's elite. It's hard to believe it took this long and we were sweating it for him to get in the Hall of Fame.
I think one thing I want to talk about after I go through a couple of the stats is third base in general, because I think we've seen a massive shift in the appreciation of that position. And I kind of
Yeah.
want to get to that after. But so Scott Rolen, 2,000 hits, 70 WAR, like you said, 316 home runs, 8 Gold Gloves, only 1 Silver Slugger, which is wild. Who was winning all the Silver Sluggers at third in the NL?
Well, he would have been at the same time as Chipper Jones.
Chipper. That's probably who it was that took almost all of them.
I'm trying to think. He would have been. Well, Beltre would have been in LA probably for a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else would I have been. I'm sure there's 2 guys. Somebody out there can tell me who I'm missing. But
either way, he was still among the elites his whole career. 7-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year. They just added the Hall of Fame plaque, which is cool. 855 career OPS, 22% of league average above league average for his career. So I mean, you're talking about a guy that slugged almost 500 for his career at 490, had an OBP over 360 for his career at 364. I mean, those are elite seasons, right? Like that's an elite season for a baseball player. He did that for 17 years. So I mean, I don't know how it took him this long.
Also, Rookie of the Year.
I did, and over 100 stolen bases. A guy did much like he was a Cardinal through and through, much like Paul Goldschmidt, Albert Pujols, well regarded as one of the smartest base runners that anyone has ever played with. Correct?
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of people in St. Louis remember the riff at the end of before we traded him. I think we traded him to Toronto. Is that right?
No, Cincinnati. I thought
Cincinnati, and then he ended up in Toronto after Cincinnati.
No, Toronto. You're right. Sorry.
Okay,
Toronto,
that's what I thought. Right. Okay,
that makes more sense because we wouldn't have traded Scott Rolen to Cincinnati.
I thought we traded him to Toronto. But you remember the riff at the end. But then Scott, when he left St. Louis, he was never the same. I think he had an All-Star year maybe in Cincinnati. Did he have a year where he was
in 2010?
Yeah,
I remember.
I thought so.
850 OPS at the age of 35.
But when he left here, man, his shoulder wasn't right. He was banged up. He was just after he had that big injury, he was never the same.
When he's something incredible though, 2010 and 11, 2 of his last 3 years, he was an All-Star. He ended up getting hurt in 2011. But 2010, 854 OPS for the season, 20 jacks, and a Gold Glove at the age of 35.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
To kind of give our fans, also, by the way, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. All of you that listen, we greatly appreciate that. You make what we do, make what we're able to do. Now, that's not how I meant to say that, but you know what I'm trying to say. But while you're watching here and you're listening,
I don't even know what you were trying to say.
I don't know. We're just going to move on. But when we're talking about all these Scott Rolen things, if you have time, there's that little red button. We'd love to have you subscribe. That helps us. Plus, it also gets you you'll get updates for those of you who appreciate that. That's always a good thing. I like to do that for the podcast.
Well, there also is there's a notification bell that can get you notifications when we post. If you'd like to hit that,
that subscribe. That greatly helps, and then hit that notification if you'd like. That'll make when we release videos that Caleb releases them at like odd hours of the night. So they're there for you in the morning. There you go. You'll get a notification.
Okay, so
for reference, hold on. One reference for Cardinal fans. Right now, Nolan Arenado, all time. If you're wondering, all time at third base is 19th with 52.2 WAR. And you're talking about a guy who has, what, Caleb? Do you think 10 more? He has legitimately. If we're talking about it, and I'm not trying to take away from Scott Rolen here. That's not what we're doing. But you're talking about a guy who potentially could be in the 80s. He could be in that Beltre range when he retires.
Oh yeah, he's probably got he's probably got 8 more years at least left, right? 7 to 8
Beltre
at least.
Beltre third all time at third base at 93.5.
I will say,
again, WAR's not everything. We understand that.
But
that's why Bobby Abreu's not in the Hall of Fame. But
but here's the thing: there's an argument for him. But here's the thing: WAR doesn't really lie though. Like you just said, Bobby Abreu had a fantastic career. He did, but you don't see guys with 70 WAR and say, "Whoa, how'd he get there?" So it is something that you should use, because you don't see guys that just like, Tommy Edmonds, one of those outliers where you really wouldn't expect him to get the WAR he gets. But in general, like if you look per season and you say, okay, who's the top 10 in WAR in Major League Baseball in 2022? Most of the time, it's the 10 players you'd expect to be there. It's Mike Trout, it's Ohtani, it's Aaron Judge, Goldschmidt, Arenado. Like, so WAR is important to me. I think it matters.
Agreed.
A lot.
I'm
the top
just
of all
saying it's not
time,
the end all be all, but it is
no,
what you and it's also what writers use. Now, anything else you wanted to talk about with Scott Rolen before? I just kind of want to talk about the Hall of Fame as well, as we
I
saw
want to get
another
into
voting
third
come and
base
go.
because
Okay,
I think
sure.
the most important factor for Scott Rolen getting in was the fact that third basemen are incredibly underrepresented. He was the 18th to get elected at third base in the Hall of Fame.
16th.
16th?
16th.
Okay, 16th, sorry.
Yeah.
The first since Chipper Jones. Because Edgar, he was a DH to me. I'm not going to call him a third baseman.
Came up as a third baseman, but played first and DH at the end of his career.
He wasn't playing third base in his prime.
No.
But
A-Rod was playing first base. Or third base.
I've kind of like gotten accustomed to third base being the position I value a lot because, well, one, I got to watch Scott Rolen for a little bit when I was very young. Kind of my first Cardinal memories were of the teams with him and Jim Edmonds. But I've gotten to see, now we get Nolan Arenado, Manny Machado, Austin Riley, Rafael Devers, Jose Ramirez. We're in a golden age of third baseman right now. And I think the fact that we're kind of starting to see that, I mean, there might be 5 third basemen in the top 20, 25 players in baseball. Maybe that's giving the writers a better appreciation, more appreciation for what Scott Rolen did, because we now see how important that position is. Do you agree with that at all?
Yeah, I do. And I also wonder, and I'd love to talk to somebody who is a baseball writer, or who has a vote. I wonder if the Cal Ripken effect hurt third baseman. Because when he came into the league, all the shortstops were Osby and Gary Templeton. They were 5'8", 5'9", 5'10". And all of a sudden we had Cal. Cal looked like a third baseman. He was playing shortstop. And I wonder if then we saw Cal play short, and all of a sudden now we started to think, oh, well, now third base became – if you look in the 80s, if you look through the 80s, you got Mike Schmidt. That's really it. I mean, I know George Brett played then, and Molitor's in, but to me, again, not really a third. I mean, I know early in the 80s he was with the Brewers, but I think Paul Molitor is a first baseman DH, for a lot of his career. So you had a big gap in there. And I always wonder if, Ripken coming in at 6'4", that's what those guys playing third should be playing short. So we're going to kind of devalue what they did. And, I think for years we saw the movie Major League, right, where they put Doran there, he's just wearing balls off of his chest. That's kind of what you did at third base, I think. With a lot of guys who could hit bombs, you put him at third base and just said, here, goalie it up, pick the ball up and throw him out at first.
Yeah, what also happened was you had a lot of shortstops that moved to third base when they weren't good enough to play shortstop. So you had that situation going. And then you had a lot of third basemen who weren't good enough to field over there, moved to first base and just focused on hitting. So you kind of had Edgar, who moved to DH at first base, because they weren't good enough at fielding. And then you had Scott Rolen, who was playing over there because he was one of the greatest defensive players of all time.
Right.
And I don't know how you overlook a guy like Scott Rolen for 5 years. I'm glad he's in. I couldn't be happier for him. I don't really care to talk about what hat he goes in with, because to be honest with you, whether it's Cardinals, it's Phillies, or it's nothing, I don't really care. I'm just glad he's in.
Yeah, the one thing I will say that I thought was interesting, Bob Costas said today, that he talked to Rolen, and Rolen essentially said, I don't know. I'm going to take some time. I'm going to and kind of see what and listen to any advice that the Hall of Fame has to give. Was there a time, I was trying to do some research on this. Was there a time that the Hall picked it for you and then they switched that over in the mid-2000s?
I don't remember. Was it maybe the most service time you had?
I don't know, because I found some conflicting reports that back in the day they would pick. La Russa was kind of the one who changed that, right?
I think when he went in, picked your own. But here's the thing: Cardinals don't retire numbers unless you go in as a Cardinal, correct?
That's
because Lee Smith's number is not retired.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that answer.
I think that is the rule. So Tyler O'Neill is going to have to wait for Scott Rolen to decide to see if he can wear his number.
Yeah. If you were to ask me right now, I say he goes in as a Philadelphia Philly. I would. But
well, see, I heard Chris Rose say
he went in as a Cardinal.
Chris Rose said he thinks he'd go in as a Cardinal. He won his ring there, and he really had his best season there. We're looking at it. 2004 was probably his best. Was definitely his best season ever.
Well, yeah, that's
by
the
far.
MP3. Yeah.
2002 to 2004 were his best seasons.
Yeah, but if you look like Rookie of the Year, he won more Gold Gloves, and I'm just saying Philly drafted him. I could see him going in as a Philly, but I can also see him going in as a Cardinal. And like you said, honestly, I don't really care.
Something
I'm
also
not going
not
to be
being
mad.
talked about Scott Rolen. This is the last thing we can say about it. But you know what he was really overshadowed by and hurt by in terms of MVP votes, Silver Sluggers, stuff like that. He played in the middle of the steroid era.
Yeah.
So his stats relative to the league, you're talking about a 122 OPS plus. What would that have looked like if you didn't have guys like Barry Bonds who had a 200
Hey,
OPS plus?
by the way, not guilty.
Yeah, yes, he was. And let's not even do that. But what I'm saying is like he was still one of the best players of his generation, and he was playing at a disadvantage.
Agreed. I do think it's cool. Like if you're a guy like for us, we talk about the Mount Rushmore of whatever all the time. There's no doubt that if you were to say, give me the Mount Rushmore of your defensive third baseman all time, it's Scott Rolen, it's Brooks Robinson, it's Mike Schmidt, and it's Nolan Arenado. Do you agree? Like that's your
Yeah, but you better fix that order.
Well, those were not in order.
Good, because Nolan Arenado.
Those were my
one.
four. Like
See, Brooks Robinson.
You can pick who you want to be, Teddy Roosevelt, and who you want to be, Lincoln or Washington. I don't care. Like, does not matter to me.
Well, Brooks Robinson said he. I mean, you gotta also respect Adrian Beltre, put him up there. But I mean, there's a lot.
I do, but not defensively like the other ones.
He was fantastic defensively.
Absolutely, but not like again. There's
never wore
a reason Mount Rushmore for.
Adrian Beltre never wore a cup.
Yeah, well, neither did you.
I'm so excited for him to go in the Hall of Fame next year. He was one of my favorite players when I was growing up.
I'm geeked to see Rolen and McGriff go in because both two guys who I think have been overlooked for far too long. Mm-hmm. Two guys who I watched play their entire career, and two guys who, no doubt in my mind, were Hall of Famers.
You want to talk about?
Since we're talking about that, can we just talk for a little bit about the Hall? I'm not going to get into bashing the writers. There's plenty of time for that if people want to do that. But in my mind, as a guy who has watched baseball since I was 5, 6 years old, I think that I have a pretty good grasp on watching people who I believe are Hall of Famers. I think I can now put them up against everybody, especially looking back. How in the hell does Todd Helton not get in the Hall of Fame?
One of the greatest hitters I've ever seen with my eyeballs. Just flat out, like every single year, he was one of the best hitters. I saw him.
He's the highest OPS plus of non-Hall of Famers who have not been tied to any sort of steroid. You know what I'm saying? Like I hate to say that because there are people who have been tied who are not probably I hate that. But either way.
But anyway, what to
also,
your point,
here's the thing.
Wait, hold on.
Go ahead. No,
to your point, OPS Plus has a park factor in it, which means that was adjusted to him playing in Coors Field. So if you want to say, Coors Field bullshit, because they already adjusted the OPS Plus to his stadium he played in.
Correct.
So he was still, knowing that he played in the most advantageous stadium in baseball, he still was 30% above league average.
Okay, so I go back to also 15th all time, 15th at first base. By the way, was the quarterback at Tennessee before Peyton Manning got there. Let's not forget that this dude was a fucking athlete. He hit everything. He hit the ball the other way. He drove the ball. He hit the ball the other way with authority. He drove the ball into the upper deck at Coors Field. 15th all time at first base at WAR. The average of 25 Hall of Famers who played first base is 65. He's at 62. Like, Dad, what are we doing? I watched the man play day in and day out. Well, you know what I'm saying. That man is a Hall of Famer, and if he's not, I don't know what a Hall of Famer looks like anymore. I thought I did.
Here's the thing. So I think if he wasn't playing in the steroid era once again, but we'll just say the Barry Bonds, Albert Pujols didn't do steroids, but that was the era where they were dominating. And Albert kind of overshadowed him at first base a little bit. But if he wasn't playing in that era where Barry Bonds was winning MVP every year, I mean, he would have. There are 4 years in here, Dad, more than that. 2000 to 2004, where he would have won an MVP every single season if he was playing today. With 1162 OPS, 1116, 1000, 1000, 1000. Let's look at his 2000 year alone. And he did this for 17 years, but for this stretch where he was like the greatest hitter on the planet that wasn't named Barry Bonds, it was like 7 years. He batted 372. He had a 463 OBP, a 700 slug, an 1162 OPS, a 163 OPS plus, and played 160 games, and then won a Gold Glove the next year as well. Like, I mean, those are godly numbers. Like, we talk about Coors Field, we can talk about that all day long. The guy had an 855 OPS on the road for his career, but we can even just in Coors Field, Nolan Arenado is one of the most talented players of this generation. He never had an 1100 OPS.
No,
Never. Troy
no.
Tulowitzki is one of the most talented players I've ever seen. He was never close to that.
Yeah. Coaching
He's a
in
Hall of
Texas
Famer.
now. Coaching in Texas now. Yeah, it does blow your mind. Let me throw a few names at you, okay? And I just want your initial thought. We don't have to go deep into it. Jeff Kent.
Hall of Famer.
Okay, agreed. Top 20, I think, or 25 all-time in WAR at second base.
He's the best power-hitting second baseman of all time.
And Rich Aurelius said, he always got dogged for not good defense. That's not true. Rich Aurelius said best double play teammate he ever had in his life. Rich Aurelius, stud shortstop, by the way.
I mean, here's the thing: if he wasn't good if he wasn't good defensively, he was a good enough hitter to move to third base or first base. They would have done that.
And do you feel like he is kept out because people did not love Jeff Kent, and two, because of Bonds? Do you feel like the Bonds effect hurts Jeff Kent?
I think so too. He was overshadowed in some of his best years while playing with Barry Bonds. But didn't he win his MVP while playing with Barry Bonds? Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah, he was great.
He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, the list of second basemen that just win one MVP is so small in general. Like it's what Joe Morgan, Jose Altuve. It's a very small list. So
did Alomar win
855 career OPS for Jeff Kent.
I know. What's his OPS plus?
123.
Yeah.
And he was playing in some massive stadiums. Like Shea Stadium and San Francisco were huge.
Billy Wagner.
It's not even – he should be in the Hall of Fame. Like, I don't even know what we're doing with him. It's so confusing.
You and I talk about WAR a lot. It's impossible to talk about WAR with relief pitchers. Like, it really is. I mean, it's so hard. Odd to me that there are no left-handers in relievers in the bullpen. Again, watch Billy Wagner at 5'10" throwing fucking BBs by everybody, piss rockets and everything else for the Astros, for the Mets. Like that, Braves? Wagner with the Braves too? Is that right?
No.
Okay.
Mets, Phillies, Houston.
Okay, Philly.
He was with the Braves for 1 year.
Okay, yeah. That's what I thought.
An all-star in his final season, by the way, with 1.43 ERA.
I don't what are your thoughts on why is Billy Wagner not in the what is keeping Billy Wagner out of the Hall of Fame?
I've got a few thoughts. One, the fact that he almost had a 30 WAR as a reliever is crazy. That's insane.
Yes, 27.7, I think.
Yeah, but also he'll get in. He was at 68% this year. So they're coming around on him. I don't know. Is it the Mo effect? It seems like if you're not named Mariano Rivera and you're from this era, you're not getting in, and I do not understand it. Like
Hoffman?
Yeah, Hoffman is in.
Yeah.
But was he a better reliever than Billy Wagner?
I mean,
you know what I mean?
It's so subjective. Like again, and
also subjective, but the fact that we can have the conversation means they should both be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I agree. Like I said, again, I watched them, and if you look at relief pitchers all time, where is he? He is 6th all time in WAR. No, that's wrong. Sorry, he's 8th all time in WAR. Either way,
0.3 less WAR than Hoffman. That's all Billy Wagner. That's the only difference. Yeah. And Trevor Hoffman was he a first ballot guy? 14. Was Hoffman in on the first ballot?
That's a great question. I don't know. Now, to be fair, like Tom Gordon does have a higher WAR. But I just know that I watched Billy Wagner play and pitch, and he was dominant. He was one of the most dominant relievers of that era. It's hard for me to believe that Billy Wagner's in. Okay, two more guys that I just kind of want to get your opinion on. Gary Sheffield.
No.
Okay, how come?
Because Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame.
So you okay, but David Ortiz is.
Yeah.
They were on the same
that is what it is. But if you're not putting Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, I'm not putting Gary Sheffield in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so Gary Sheffield admitted it. Again.
Gary Sheffield admitted it. Gary Sheffield admitted it. He did. He looked it up. Look it up. He said he accidentally took it. Yes, he did.
Well, yeah, it took something. But again, that was at the end of his career. You can't tell me that Gary Sheffield's not a Hall of Famer.
I'm telling you that if Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame, then he's not in the Hall of Fame. And at this point, like the fact that they've made that the standard, it sucks. But if Gary Sheffield gets in the Hall of Fame, how can you justify Barry Bonds not being in the Hall of Fame?
I just think it's impossible to try to guess, and I wish we wouldn't have to. Do you think that with the
try and guess what?
Writer?
Here we go. He admitted to a Balco grand jury that he received substances from friend Barry Bonds during their off-season training sessions. He admitted to it.
Okay, my apologies. But, okay, I guess I was looking for – there was no test. But, yeah, okay, I got you. Okay, here, do you think – and this was brought up the other day on something I was watching or reading. Do you think that with the younger baseball writers getting, for example, potentially you one day, right? Maybe one day you have a vote for this, which would be awesome. Do you think that people are going to lessen we're going to get rid of the old, almost I hate the old rich whites are going to move on, and they're going to get down to the people who watched all these eras and aren't so stuck up and don't live in this 1950s, 60s era of what
Are we
baseball
talking
they believe
about in
baseball should
relation to
be.
PEDs?
Do you what I'm saying is, do you think an
It's too
A-Rod
late.
gets in? Do you think
No.
they could always go back and change it? We've seen
Here's what I'll
that.
say. Here's what I'll say. Because I said no to Gary Sheffield only because Barry Bonds isn't in. Because I just think that would be blasphemous to put him in instead of Barry and not Barry Bonds. That's why I said that. Here's what I'll say. If I had a vote, I would have voted for Barry last year. I would have voted for Gary last year. I would have voted for Roger Clemens last year. And I would not have voted for Alex Rodriguez. I would not have ever voted for him. Because my line, my personal line, let me explain it. My line is if you were caught cheating after there were specific rules in this collective bargaining agreement, you are not in my Hall of Fame. That's the line I have chosen.
And I have no argument with that. I would just go back to the fact that Alex Rodriguez should be in, or like you just watched, he's a Hall of Famer. Like,
then people should just do steroids and get better.
Like everybody I've ever talked or heard talk, Manny Ramirez is like the greatest right-handed hitter they ever played with.
And he failed.
He's on the Hall of Fame
twice.
I know.
Was he that great because of that? We've seen players like Ryan Braun win an MVP while juicing, and Matt Kemp got screwed out of it.
In the end, it's a museum, and I believe the best players deserve to be in there.
But some of these players, like, were they actually the best? Like A-Rod said he was doing it with Texas, and then got caught doing it again with the Yankees. How good was he?
I like I said, I understand. I do.
Like, I'm not going to say that Alex Rodriguez isn't one of the most talented. Maybe the best hitting shortstop to ever walk this planet. That might be what he is.
Right.
But at the same time, he made a mockery of your sport.
I guess
multiple times.
My thing is David Ortiz is in.
David Ortiz never failed a drug test.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I understand. Okay, one guy that you and I talked about for a second today, and I just want to bring him up because he's going to be on the ballot either next year or the year after. Big Joe Mauer gets in.
Yes, and I think he should, and I think he will because he's maybe top 5 best hitting catchers to ever walk the planet. Career 24% above league average. Career OPS at this can't be right. Is that at 827. Career slugging at over 400. Career OBP at 380, and a career 306 batting average. That's a Hall of Famer.
Yep, I agree. And
to go along with an MVP.
Again, reference. I'd just like to kind of throw this out. 9th all time at the catcher position at WAR, and I know he DH. I understand some, but a lot of these guys did. At the end of their career, Fisk. Those, what I'm saying. I understand all that. Average 16 Hall of Famers is 53.6. He's 55.2 in WAR. In my mind, he's a Hall of Famer. I agree.
So you said earlier, and I somewhat agree with this, somewhat don't. If you think you're watching a Hall of Famer, then he probably is a Hall of Famer. Because sometimes it's also like, well, you can also go back and say, well, let's look at it and see if he is. Like some people would have watched Scott Rolen and not been like, ooh, that's on the level of Eddie Matthews or whatever. But Joe Mauer, like when I watched Joe Mauer play towards the end of his career, like because I grew up with Joe Mauer, he was on the face of all the video games. Like he was the guy. I thought I was watching a Hall of Famer the whole time. I had that feeling when I watched Joe Mauer.
Same. Him
One
and
of my favorite athletes
them and them boys were great.
6-time All-Star.
Yep.
Him and Adrian Beltre are up next year, and that's going to be really special for I think my generation because Joe Mauer and Adrian Beltre were our generation's like the faces of the American League for a long time. Like them and Jeter, of course, but Jeter was kind of towards the latter half. But these were the guys that were on our video games that I was playing with when I was 10 years old. So I'm excited for those two.
Yeah. I'm still perplexed by the voting process. I still think it has to be addressed. It's hard for me to understand guys who never played baseball voting for such a prestigious award. I understand that some of the players don't want to have a vote. I also understand that there's the idea that the players could be more like harsh on who gets in because they feel like it is such. They just did.
They just kept Barry and Clemens out.
Yeah, I just wish it was all up to the players. I really do.
Yeah, some of me does.
Or a combination.
Because then remember, like before Joe Morgan died, rest in peace, legend, obviously. He was on this thing about how he doesn't want PEDs in his Hall of Fame. So then you got things like that will sway people. I kind of like the objectiveness of it, or what's supposed to be objective. What I want to see is the people. There are multiple people out in Boston that haven't written for baseball for years that are mailing in empty ballots because they want a small hall. Those people, if you enter in an empty ballot in a year where someone gets elected into the Hall of Fame, you should be kicked out. You shouldn't be allowed to vote anymore.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I'm going at. Like, also, let's realize King Griffey Jr. got like 97% of the vote. Like,
Derek
that means
Jeter
3% of
was
people who are supposed to watch baseball did not vote for King Griffey Jr.
same with Derek
Because
Jeter.
here's the what, and they used the logic. Well, we knew he was going to get in. No, that's not your job. Your job is to vote for the best people that should be in the Hall of Fame.
Can
And if
I
you can't do your job, then it's time for us to find somebody who
can
can.
I throw an idea at you? Um, I
Sure.
heard Derek Gould talking about this, and I thought it was really, really smart. I'd never thought about it before. You know how it's a 10-person ballot now? You get to vote for 10 people. I think because
Yes.
they have that 10% rule or 5% or whatever it is rule, I think what should happen is you should get a box yes or no by every single player on the ballot, and you should be able to vote yes and no for every player. You shouldn't have a limit to how
That's
many players you can vote for, because if you
I
think they're a
love
Hall of
that.
Famer, they're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. There should have only been 10. If there's 11 Hall of Famers on the ballot, why should you not be able to vote for them?
That's the Derek Gould coming in big again. I
That's
agree
one of the greatest ideas
100%.
I've ever heard.
Yes. I agree 100% because why are we putting a number
It
on, like,
cost
that's
Jim
the dumbest thing.
Edmonds. Jim Edmonds is off the
Right.
ballot after
Yeah.
1 year because of that.
You think he gets in? That's the other guy I want to bring up.
Yes, he'll get in eventually.
Oh no, Andrew Jones was the other one.
Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. And I want to go back and
he
say
gets
I
in?
do believe Gary Sheffield is a Hall of Famer, but I think given the standard they've set, I don't know how you can put him in. But yes, Andrew
Yeah.
Jones, different conversation. Yes, he'll get
Yeah,
in.
they've definitely tried and have fairly succeeded in establishing a precedent, and I understand that. I don't like it. Like, I
No, I
believe
don't
he should
either.
be in the Hall of
I'd
Fame.
put them all in.
Dude was one of the
I
greatest
mean,
fucking players I've ever seen in my life.
he's one of the greatest power players of all time. Power hitters of all time. And you're like, and I hate that the steroid era was ugly and it sucked, but it happened. I don't understand why they're trying to now rewrite history and act like it didn't happen.
I agree.
That's what
And
upsets me about it.
didn't Sheffield get drafted as a catcher?
Gary Sheffield is
right?
one of the greatest athletes to ever play the sport of baseball.
Yeah,
Just pure hitter.
Is he Doc Gooden's nephew? Is that right too?
I don't know, but 60 career. I mean, the dude has 500 home runs. He's a Hall of. He had a 290 for a career with an OPS over 900. Like
nephew of Dwight Gooden. I was right on that. I thought, I think he was drafted as a catcher. Isn't that wild?
World Series champ as well.
By Milwaukee.
97. Yeah.
Nine-time All-Star. Andrew Jones in my mind. Look, he broke my heart in 2006. Bobby Cox put him in the lineup essentially for Game 7. They asked him why, and he said, because I think he's going to hit a home run. He did. We were up 3-1 on the Braves, and then we had to go through Smoltz, Maddox, and Glavine. We lost 3 in a row.
Braves what are you talking about?
Andrew Jones, rookie year.
What year did you say?
96. I said 2006.
But 2006 we won the World Series.
My apologies. 96. Good Lord. See, that's
we're a Cardinal podcast here. We gotta know these things.
96. It had been a long drought for the Cardinals in the postseason. We get in. We get to the NLCS. We're right there. We got the Braves, the vaunted Braves down 3-1. Next thing you know, we got to go through Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox. We didn't. We got.
Can I ask you a question?
And Andrew Jones goes to New York, by the way, and hits 2 home runs in Yankee Stadium.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. And this is a genuine question. I'm not sure. I didn't get to watch a lot of Andrew Jones's career, just to be quite honest with you, because he didn't play during when I was like cognizant. Like he did for like 10 years, but I wasn't really watching him. Do you think if he would have come up when he was 25 and had his 10 years of prime from 25 to 35 and then not had the 5 years where he was not very good, he'd be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting argument too. It's almost the Sandy Koufax rule, right? Like what?
And even then, now that I'm looking at it, he had 800 OPSs.
Yes, I know. He's a Hall of Famer. What's his WAR?
He's 823 career OPS, 62.
Yeah. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer.
He's a 10-time Gold Glover with an 800 OPS for a career.
Yeah. And I watched that man play center field, and he hit 25 home runs every year. It seemed like.
Him and Jim Edmonds should both be in there.
Yeah, I agree. They here's the thing. I was lucky, during my time, like of that 90s run, to get to see Griffey, Edmonds, and Edmonds was towards the middle to the late 90s, heading into the 2000s. But to see Griffey, Edmonds, and Andrew Jones patrol center field, like it was every night. If you turned on back then, that was Sports Center was the heyday. Baseball Tonight on ESPN. One of those guys was making an unbelievable catch and was probably 3 for 4.
Yeah, and those two were really the best center fielders in baseball at that time, right? Like,
and by the way, no slight to Bernie Williams, he was right there on that list too. Like, if you're going to be honest, so that was a pretty awesome time. So two more things. I just want to get your quick reactions before we get out of here.
Wasn't there one more thing we want to talk about other than that?
Oh, yeah. Duh.
Chip
Cardinals have
Caray.
a brand new announcer.
Chip Caray, yeah. How do you feel?
Chip Caray. Huh?
How do you feel about it?
Okay. I have a few thoughts.
Okay.
One, it's the Caray family. I'm a big fan of the Caray family. Like,
obviously,
Harry was a legend here in St. Louis before he was Boink and Gussie's wife, and they fired him. So there was that. Then
is
he
that
goes
actually
on
what
to
happened,
become,
or was that a rumor?
that was exactly what happened.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm looking it up to
and
make
I
sure you
think he
didn't
got
just
like
spread a
caught
rumor.
in the act, like got hit by a car, I think, or something like that in the park. Something big was going
you're like
on.
maybe spreading
anyway,
rumors. I don't like this.
No, I'm not. Those are like legit, dude. Those are legit facts. Then.
Oh no, it was a rumor.
Well, okay.
No, stop.
All right.
It was a rumor. You need to clarify that.
It was not a rumor, but that's okay. Either
I
way,
just looked it up.
Skip,
it was a rumor. Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
Like Skip.
No, stop. Say it was a rumor because we can't be saying that it was a fact.
The rumor
if it's not a fact.
The rumor was.
I'm saying that's irresponsible. Don't say it's a fact if it's not.
Either way. Okay. A big fan of the Caray family. Fine. Is it odd to you? Let me kind of answer your question with a question, which I know is annoying as fuck. But isn't it kind of odd that he was like the 6th or 7th choice to take? Like, that's how far you think about that. Like, it's the Cardinals. Like, and I understand the first 3 didn't seem to ever make any sense. Joe Buck, Greg Amsinger, Bob Costas, like, but still, I mean, evidently Bally's like not paying Sports Midwest. From what I've read, like the offers are pretty low. I'm shocked.
I don't know if it's as much about the offers as it is your job security should be important to you, and when you have no idea what company you'll be working for in maybe 5 years, that's probably not something that entices people.
That's fair. And, I was really, we talked on the last pod. I was really pumped for Aaron Goldsmith. I really was. But I'm also really pumped that he decided to stay in Seattle because he loves it out there. And, there is something to be said about stability, like you just said. There is something about living in Seattle, by the way. Also, you never know what his family wants. He's married. He has kids. Like, now you're uprooting a whole – I mean, you're not just moving jobs. You're moving the entire family. So there's something to be said. I was shocked that he turned it down. I'm fine with Chip. Here's what I'm going to say about Chip from watched a lot of Braves games in my day. He's not going to be very exciting. That's what I'll say.
Really? I thought he was.
No, it's pretty much he calls the game as he sees it. Like, one thing I loved about Dan kind of screwed us here. One thing I loved about Dan was he was such a fan of the team. He was such a fan of the game. And I feel like Chip has shown, or Chip the third.
You're really fucking this up.
Chip has shown, I'm not, the propensity not to necessarily love modern day baseball. Like, he likes the old school bunting. Yeah, not a fan of the metrics, not a fan of the game today, not a fan of the flair. I don't like that. But I wish him well. I hope he's
I don't know
great.
about that. He said, he watched Ron Acuna Jr. play every day. There's no way he could have hated it. Here's what I'll say. I don't really care all that much, to be honest with you. I'll mute the TV if I don't like him. I hope he does well. It is what it is. I hope he does well. I don't know enough. I haven't watched enough Atlanta Braves home broadcasts to be able to give a fair evaluation of how he is through a full season.
And if we're going to be honest, that is a very valid one. I watched him when he was much younger, when TBS was, when he was with Skip, like with his dad. Like, I watched that at that age. He's done, obviously, national broadcasts and everything. So it's a big name. It's a big name for the Cardinals. That's for sure. To get the Caray, you got the Bucks and the Careys. That's the Cardinals. So it's a big name to get. I think it's a good get. I was kind of shocked he left Atlanta, but I guess the Cardinals.
Also, like, at the same time,
back to where your grandpa was, like, okay.
At the same time, also, like, if you're going to be the voice of the Atlanta Braves for over a decade, like, you're not bad at your job. So people are going to be bad.
He's not bad. By no means was I saying that.
No, I'm not saying I'm saying other people.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it.
Well, I'm not. I mean, it's not okay. That's not true. That's not true. Like, I don't want to say that because I wouldn't mind talking to the guy. Maybe we can do one or something. It's not that. I've been very honest on here. I wanted somebody who was younger, that would be here like Dan was for, hopefully for 30 years. He'll be here. That's what I was hoping for, but that didn't happen. So, Chip Caray, again, big.
I'll give him a chance. I just don't. I'm not going to write him off.
He's a professional. He'll be great. I think if you're a fan of Ricky Horton, you're going to be a fan of Chip Caray. That's what I'll say.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, all right. I mean, okay. Today, MLB released with Artie Moreno deciding to stay. their most valuable MLB franchises. Cardinals come in 7th. What are your thoughts on that?
That's about where I expect them to be, and that has nothing to do with their yearly revenue.
Okay. What about their payroll?
It has nothing to do with their yearly revenue.
Well, revenue is what you bring in.
Correct.
Yeah, payroll is what you put out.
Right. You spend based off revenue, not valuation of your company.
Okay. Which we don't know what that is. The rumor
yes, we
was
do.
12.
He said it was 12.
12.
There was no rumor. Right. Bill DeWitt, the guy that makes the money.
But again, here's what I'm saying. Okay, here's the thing. When you have this kind of valuable franchises, like, yes, I understand, but you don't necessarily have to spend within just the constraints of year-to-year revenue.
No, but no, I don't think, and I doubt they do. Like, there's times where they've been in the top 7 in payroll over the last 5 years. It's happened. So, I mean, I didn't think much of it. I mean, the reason it's valued so highly is because it's such. If you were to go buy the Cardinals, which is what the value is for, if you were to go buy the Cardinals, you are guaranteed to turn a profit every single year you have them.
And that's why it's valued so high. I also assume that value includes Ballpark Village and everything else, right?
I mean, yeah, that, but also the fact that, like, if you buy the St. Louis Cardinals, you were buying the keys to an unwaveringly a loyal fan base.
Okay,
like that's what you're doing.
That's why way to get that out.
That's why it's wavered. I mean, that's why it's valued so high. Is because if you were to go get the St. Louis Cardinals, every single year you were going to break probably in the top 5 in ticket sales every year. That's why it's valued so high.
Yeah. I agree. I'm on board. Are you shocked that they're like 14th or 15th right now in payroll?
No. Why would I be shocked?
I've talked to a bunch of people about that too, because it does seem like everybody's up in arms. I'm much more concerned with a September payroll than a January payroll. If we're
also, even then, I don't really give a singular shit about the payroll. I care about if they have needs, they need to address the needs.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, if they have a perfect roster and they have $100 million payroll, what the fuck do I care what they're paying?
Yeah, people are really, really still bitching about not going out to get an elite pitcher. And I don't know how many times to explain to them we weren't going to sign DeGrom or Verlander, and almost no one was going to.
Yeah.
And Carlos Rodon wanted to be in New York. So unless you were going to grossly, and I mean grossly, overpay for him, he wasn't coming here. He wanted to be he made it known.
The only guy I would have overpaid for this offseason would have been Justin Verlander, because it's not a long-term commitment, and there's no really long-term risk involved in that at all. That would have been the guy. I said that before the offseason started. They didn't. He went to the Mets. Shocker. Good luck getting Bill DeWitt to outbid fucking Steve Cohen right after he loses Jacob DeGrom. Like, that's not happening.
Agreed.
So it is what it is. Like, would I like the payroll to go up? Yes, but I also, like, if they have one need in my eyes, one clear need, and it's to go get a top of the line rotation piece. I am okay with them saying, okay, let's find out if Jack Flaherty can be that guy, and if he can't, the deadline is when we need to address that. I am perfectly.
I agree. I think you and I have said that many times on here, and I'm going to remain consistent on that. I agree. All right, last thing before we get out of here. FanDuel today released their 2023 National League MVP odds. I'm going to go through them with you, and then I want you to tell me who I should put my money on. All right? Fair? Okay. Soto, number 1 at +5.
Wait, can we set this up for 1 second? Because I did say that Paul Goldschmidt was going to win it last year, and he did.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
Did you
stream something?
I also said Sandy Alcantara was going to win the Cy Young, and he also did.
There it is. Any more? You need
That's
to bring
impressive, Dad. You didn't get him right. You guessed too. You were wrong.
Yeah, I was wrong. Do you want any more, like, shots?
No, I'm just saying, put your money down on this, because I was right.
Did you not get enough hugs as a kid?
Probably not. That's your fault. Can we keep going?
All right, Soto +550. And then 2 Mookie, all right, +950. So Soto, like, overwhelmingly.
That's
right?
crazy.
3, our boy Paul Goldschmidt at 950 with Mookie. 4th, Acuna,
back to back.
Tied with Tatis and Nolan Arenado and Machado. They're all +1,000. All right. Then you drop down to 8th, which is Turner at +1,200. 1,200. Freeman at +1,300 and Pete Alonso at +1,400. If you were, which you're not, well, you're not. I am, and I am on FanDuel quite a bit, and I've been doing pretty well on FanDuel lately. If I'm making a bet, who would you prefer me to put $10 on right now, today, at those odds?
Ronald Acuna Jr.
Okay.
I think he's going to. He had a year to get his ACL back, to being healthy, to trust it. He just smoked a bomb in the fucking Venezuelan league and it took like 10 minutes to round the
He
bases.
did.
That was
People are
awesome.
mad at him too, by the
But
way.
yeah, of course they are. But I think he is going to come out and remind people why he's a top 5 player in baseball next year.
Okay. Can I tell you who I also put money on today? I've already done this.
Freddie Freeman.
Nope.
Okay, go
Nolan
ahead.
Arenado.
When was the last time the Cardinals had 2 different players winning back-to-back years? Ever? Probably
and
never.
that could hurt them, right? That could hurt them. That's a great question. Fools never won back-to-back, I don't believe. I just have a feeling that with the addition of Wilson Contreras, with a healthy Tyler O'Neill, with a healthy Dylan Carlson, with the potential of Jordan Walker / Nolan Gorman / Juan Yepes breakout. I think one of those, if not two of those guys, have a breakout.
You forgot Donnie Barrels.
With Lars in that lineup. And you're hitting behind Paul Goldschmidt. I just have a feeling that what we saw last year, that 154 OPS plus, might even be better this year. I really do.
Yeah, it might be, but Nolan also said last year that Goldie took all of his RBIs away.
True.
So maybe that happens.
I wonder if Goldie gets pitched around a little bit more. I mean, you can't pitch around him, but yeah.
Then you got Nolan
put
standing right there behind him. I mean, obviously, I love that. I do think Nolan gets one before his career is over. So maybe it's this year. I did have a tweet that said I did have a tweet that said it's fitting Scott Rolen went into the Hall of Fame the year Nolan's going to win his first MVP and World Series ring. I did tweet that out.
And then you hedged your bet and went to
Ronald I didn't hedge. Jr. That was a joke.
3 more guys on there. Who else did you take on there?
No, I'm not taking that. My pick's Ronald Acuna Jr. That was a joke because if I were betting, I wouldn't bet on the Cardinals to win the World Series. Tell you that much. But no, I do want to say though, I think Ronald Acuna Jr. is kind of being forgotten because he had a down year last year, coming off of a really tough injury. When a big part of his game has always been speed, I think he's going to have a massive year next year.
I think a lot of people feel that same way about Fernando Tatis Jr., which we'll talk about later when we get to kind of the
I love him, but he worries me just for that because he's going to be out for like 20 games still.
Yeah, right. Agreed. All right. So once again, massive shout out to Chip Caray being a part of the Cardinals. That's awesome. We are happy you are here. Look, do it justice. Call the game.
Are you?
Bigger shout out to Scotty Rolen. My grandma always called him Scotty Rolen since I can remember. So
she loved
shout out to Scotty Rolen.
That was her favorite player.
And to her always. And to Barb. Shout out, Barb. Hope you.
Why'd you point up? She's not dead.
No, it was just a shout out because she's up north. She's up north. You guys like she was dead.
All right, let's wrap this up.
No, I didn't. I didn't. Once again, guys, if you could, please hit that little red button and subscribe. Like I said, if you hit the bell, you get the little notification. We can't thank you all enough for all this. We are super pumped to get to do this and also to have you guys listen. You're all the best. Nothing else from Caleb over there. He has no more pats on the back. Just wait. Next time he probably has some more. So
I also did guess Julio Rodriguez was going to win the AL.
There it is. I knew it was coming. We will talk to you guys all soon. Stay safe. Take care of each other. Hopefully, if it is cold where you are, you stay warm. And we will talk to you soon. Cheers.